So first of all, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm going to introduce you to our very own Meg Kilmer. She's located at the Pacific Northwest Carpenters Institute, located in Portland. She is a what you call a high school liaison or high school coordinator. She has an office right there at the Carpentry Institute, and I'm going to pass this on to her and let her take it from here. Please do not hesitate to enter any questions that you might have in the chat window. We will have plenty of time for Q&A, and you will need to feel comfortable unmuting yourself and asking a question if you choose. We have a lot of apprentices on the line who are happy to share their experience with you and field your questions. All right. Are you ready, Meg?
Yes, Stacy.
All right, take it away. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for introducing me as your very own. I was an Aspire coordinator at 2 different high schools in the Portland metro area. I wanted to clarify that while I'm located at our Portland Training Center, we also have locations in Tangent and Redmond. You'll hear about that in my presentation. Today with me is an instructor in our pre-apprenticeship program, Chopper Smart. In addition, 4 apprentices from various trades are going to join us. So our program today is I'm going to set the stage, explain how apprenticeship works, and then invite my my counterparts to add a little color commentary. I'm a school counselor type, career coordinator, so I rely on the experts from the field to help me get it right, to help tell their story. Because really my purpose here, Carpenters want to, well, my boss says it like this: why is apprenticeship the best kept secret? Let's tell everybody. So being here today is part of our investment in telling everybody how apprenticeship works, how you can access union apprenticeship as well. So I have a slideshow. It'll feature some pictures from our training centers. You'll see apprentices in classes. In addition, you'll see apprentices out on the job site. Talk about how that all works. So Stacy will tell me if my slideshow is not showing, but I'm going to assume that it is. Our topics today. First, I want to tell you a little bit about PNCI and the Union Carpenters. I wanted to help you get clear about apprenticeship and how it works. I wanted to feature pre-apprenticeship as a way to get into an apprenticeship, and then we'll hear from apprentices. So PNCI is part of a network of training centers across North America. The curriculum that you would take here would be the same as if you were in Florida or Montana or Alaska. It's developed by the Carpenters Union, the Carpenters International Training Fund to be specific. And then your instructors are all journey level professionals who've worked for years in the field. They've taken classes on how to be an instructor and deliver the curriculum so that apprentices learn it. So that's important to know that there's a structure to this. We're not just some for-profit trade school. We're our own organization. And if you like hands-on learning, career tech education, carpentry, you might be watching a TV show right now called Tough as Nails. Recently, our counterparts in California have been just over the moon because 2 union carpenters and 1 carpenter apprentice are on this year's show. And last week, they actually featured their training center in Los Angeles. So looks pretty cool and shiny. They're all proud of that. So that's part of our network of apprenticeship training centers. This is the view from outside my office on the 2nd floor at PNCI. See, it's really a huge structure. We're about 100,000 square feet of training. On the 2nd floor, there are lots of classrooms, about 18 classrooms. And then this big area that we refer to as the deck. You can see there's a scaffolding class that just put up a scaffold in this picture. And that's one of the trades that people can study here. I talk about us as college for carpenters because in high school, we spend a lot of time talking to you about how to go to college. Am I right? You hear the message that if you want the good life, you need to go to college. So that's how I'm framing this as like college for carpenters. And we have 5 majors or 5 trades from which you can choose. We actually are partnered with a community college. So our apprentices, when they finish, will have 64 college credits, be 4 classes away from their associate's degree. But in some ways, we're totally not like a college. We don't have dorms or cafeteria food. But if one of our apprentices has to travel more than 50 miles to come to a training center in Redmond or Tangent down near Corvallis or Portland, then they're going to stay in a hotel and we're going to take care of that. There's no cafeteria, so they're going to get a meal check to take care of their meals. Some of our apprentices are actually flown in. They're from so far away. If they drive in, they'll get a mileage check. And if they're lucky to live near a training center, they're lucky enough to go home for the night and sleep in their own bed. So no dorms, no cafeteria food. And one of the most common questions I get is, what about tuition? What about student loans? That's a big worry for families today. So I wanted to be sure to tell you that at PNCI, there's no tuition. If you are selected for an apprenticeship here, we are investing in you. We believe in you. And it will cost us about $35,000 over the 4 years for your education. You can think of it like a free ride. Okay, enough about PNCI itself. Let's talk about apprenticeship. Apprenticeship, if you don't have the word registered in front of it or union in front of it, it could be anything. It's just a word, apprenticeship, like internship. There's not a real definition, but when I say union apprenticeship, you know it's affiliated with a group of professionals in an occupation who come together as a family, in one way to talk about it. And registered apprenticeship, that term comes from the state. So PNCI's 5 apprenticeships are registered with the state of Oregon's Bureau of Labor and Industries. We have a formal structure behind it. The state knows what we teach, and a state board has approved that. So just to let you know, it's really real, it's organized, and let's get into what those programs are. So at PNCI, our most popular program is the General Carpenter program. I think we might have an apprentice with us who's an exterior interior specialist program. Think of metal stud framing, drywalls, acoustical ceilings, doors, hardware, making the inside of a building look beautiful. A millwright is a mechanically minded carpenter. They install, maintain, repair big equipment that you might find in a steel mill, a paper mill, a factory. If you've ever been in the airport waiting for your luggage, that conveyor system, that was put in by a millwright. Pile drivers and scaffold directors are other, the last 3 of those are smaller apprenticeship programs. We have almost 1,500 apprentices right now. And about 900 are carpenters, about 300 are in the EIS program, and the others are in double digits. Each of these is about 4 years to complete, and it's overseen by a committee called the Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee, or JATC. So any registered apprenticeship has that structure. There's a committee that is made up of half union members or labor and half companies that employ the people in that trade to do the work, generally called contractors. So it's balanced. Each group, the labor and management, have interests in training the next generation. So it is this committee that will interview you when you apply to become an apprentice. It is this committee that oversees how you move through your program or not. And most apprentices joke that they do not ever want to go see the JATC during their 4 years here. Just interview, and then at graduation is plenty. You don't want to get in trouble with those folks. Let's talk about our learning model, because it's so different from high school. In a registered apprenticeship, you have 2 elements: this technical, hands-on, related training, which would happen at a training center like PNCI. than the paid on-the-job training. And these numbers can look a little scary. 640 hours of training. I'll tell you how that breaks down. And then 8,000 hours of paid on-the-job training. Let's do a little math real quick. In the adult world, you work full-time. That generally means 40 hours a week. And if you work 50 out of the 52 weeks in the year, you take a couple of weeks vacation, right? Make the math easy. 50 times 40 is 2,000. So 2,000 hours of work is about a year. And I mentioned this was about a 4-year program. So if we didn't think about overtime, working extra hours, it would take about 4 years to finish the on-the-job training part. I mentioned that apprenticeship equals college credit. Those 640 hours of related training, the classes you take at PNCI, actually equal 64 college credits. 4 more courses, and you're on your way. You have your associate's degree. How does it really work? How do you go from being an apprentice to that journey level or professional union carpenter? I talk about us having 4 years, so let's break it down. In high school, a semester is 18 weeks long. Here in apprenticeship, it's not based on time, it's based on accomplishing 2 things. First, taking 2 classes at PNCI and passing them, and logging at least 750 hours of work with your contractor. So when you accomplish that, whether it's in 6 months, 4 months, 8 months, you have finished. In high school, when you finish a semester, you get a report card. In apprenticeship, when you finish a term, you get a raise. We'll talk about money in the next slide. Everybody's always curious about that. So here's that 4-year model. You want to accomplish at least 2 terms a year. And one of our apprentices told me at lunch today that he's quite ahead. He does not want to take 4 years. He'll talk about how it's going to do that. But this is the normal pace. Apprenticeship is famously called earn and learn, or earn while you learn. Because you're getting paid, you're not paying tuition, you don't have a student loan. Let's break it down. So in the first term, a carpenter apprentice earns 60% of what her journey level carpenter makes. So currently, in the contract that goes through June 1st of this year, a first term apprentice is earning $26.88 an hour. They don't know a lot yet. They're pure potential, and they're making enough money to live. In about 6 months, when they accomplish 2 classes and 750 hours of work, they re-rate and are making 65%. So you can see on this chart how you go from 60 all the way up to 95%. And when you finish your apprenticeship, you're a journey level professional, and you are now earning about $45 an hour. So let's break down that 640 hours a little bit. Here's a picture of an apprentice in class. Hands-on learners love it here. Typically, an apprentice will take 4 classes a year. That's about once a quarter. They are scheduled for a class at PNCI, a sequence of classes, and they just march right through that. So that's 16 classes. That's all. Our classes are delivered in a 4-day model, 4 10-hour days. And I'll have the apprentices talk about how that feels, if that's pretty intense or just right. It's a combination of classroom learning and hands-on applied skills. I wanted to give you a feeling of what it looks like here. It'd be more fun to have you here on a field trip, of course. Here's a construction math class, and I see 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people. So a class typically will not be larger than 16, and more frequently 10 or 12, depending on the topic. I can tell this is a beginning blueprint reading class because there are paper blueprints on the desk. In advanced blueprint, the apprentices would have an iPad. That's today's technology for reading the plans for the building they're building. This is out on the deck. You can just see a lot of things happening in this picture. Again, hands-on learners really are happy here. It's a really, our boss talks about having a growth mindset and making this a place where it's okay to be learning. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to ask questions. You're here to practice new skills. And we try to keep a positive culture here on campus. I included this picture because I love that one apprentice has a tape measure and another has an iPad. I just love the contrast of that basic hands-on skill with the advanced technology. I think we have a scaffold director apprentice with us. A lot of people like to keep their feet on the ground, but our scaffold director is a little more fearless, going to new heights. In construction, welding is a skill, so all of our apprentices get to take a 40-hour welding class. Millwrights and pile drivers will take advanced welding. And I think I'll have Chopper talk about our welding lab, $500,000 investment. And people can get a national certification here. It's pretty cool. So enough about classes at PNCI. Our apprentices will talk about that. The paid on-the-job training, you will work with a contractor who has signed a contract with the regional union. You'll get a weekly paycheck starting at $26 an hour, including health benefits on top of that. You'll be mentored by professionals who have been through apprenticeship or have been working this trade for so long. And that's their passion, is to pass on their knowledge to you so that you can achieve your goals. Construction really is a team sport. You're not out there by yourself. Can't do this by yourself. And there's going to be plenty of people who are on site to teach you your job. Concrete is what a lot of our apprentices work on. Here's an apprentice, like, oh, how nice. She's building, what is she building? A box? And I quickly learned that's a concrete form, a wood structure, concrete's poured into it, the wood is stripped away, and then you've got a foundation, a footing, a column. So carpenters in concrete, I want our apprentices to talk about that experience a little bit. Can anybody tell me what's going on in this picture? Eddie, Hannah, want to unmute and talk about what's happening?
This is what is it? Looks like a concrete form for like some kind of like a deck or something is being poured down, being filled up. The rebar's already set, and they're just pouring it out and smoothing it.
This is the picture donated by the contractor who built Sherwood High School. And I asked what this was, and it's the orchestra pit that is underneath the theater, underneath the stage. And they explained that about 12 carpenters built this massive structure for the concrete orchestra pit. So then the picture fades to after the forms are stripped away. You can see the transition. Teamwork again. This is an example of tilt-up construction. So imagine a big box snapped together on the ground, the concrete poured, and then again the team lifts it into place. I think this is either the wall of the gym at Sherwood or the fly loft, that tall part of the stage where sets hang up in the air. Many of our members will be carpenters for life. They love the work. That's what they want to do. Some of our apprentices here today may have goals about taking a leadership role on the job site as a foreman, a general foreman, maybe working for the company as a superintendent, or coming to work for the union, or even being an instructor at PNCI someday, having their own business. So I want you to know it's not a one act. People who become apprentices have all kinds of different goals. And here's like a snapshot from our schedule that shows the carpenter's wage, the foreman and general foreman make more. Foreman 48.38, general foreman 49.28. So how do you get in? You have to be 18. So typically people are in the spring of their senior year or later. They'll choose one of our 5 trades to apply to. It's an online application where you'll be asked to upload photos of things like your driver's license, any certificates you might have, including first aid, OSHA 10, CPR, anything that is related. If you completed CTE classes in high school, we want to know about that. If you complete a pre-apprenticeship, there's points for that kind of thing. And then applications that score at a certain minimum level will be invited to complete an online orientation to learn about the interview and what's going to happen next. So they know what they're getting into. And when they finish that online class, then they'll be scheduled for an interview with the JATC. They meet about once a month. So this doesn't happen, day by day, not a quick process. Your interview is scored and your application and interview numbers are added together. And then you have a ranked score and you go on a big list of other candidates. So the game is to be at the top of the list. And then the JTC, as workforce demands in different parts of the state grow, whether it's Southern Oregon, Eastern Oregon, or the metro area, our contractors, when they have work, they need more carpenters, they need more apprentices, and then people are invited off that list to join their apprenticeship. If you're in high school now, if you have the chance to take a welding class, wood shop, construction tech, do it. If your school doesn't have that, do they have anything that you could take? Technical theater, where you can build sets, auto shop, where you can use tools. We also want to encourage you to maintain your fitness, and as carpenters refer to themselves as industrial athletes. Your body is really important. Take care of it. Work starts pretty early, so working on becoming a morning person and embracing the philosophy that if you're not early, you're late, will take you pretty far in this industry. If you don't have your driver's license yet, start working on it. Employers really appreciate it, knowing that you can get to work. And in your community, there may be a registered pre-apprenticeship program. So that's the next thing I want to talk about. Sometimes they're called boot camp. I like the idea that it's a 2-way interview. If you sign up for a pre-apprenticeship program, whether it's a 3-week, 12-week, or maybe 6 months like in Job Corps, you're checking it out. Is this for me? And that's really important in your career decision making. And the organization is helping decide if you're right for it. Construction isn't for everybody, but it's for anybody. Anybody who's interested can do this. Some pre-apprenticeship programs are very specific to a certain trade, and others will give you an overview of all the different trades. In fact, this week we'll be hosting tours and a hands-on workshop for 32 students from a pre-apprenticeship program here in the metro area. If you're a high school junior and you are near Portland, I'll encourage you to think about applying for Carpenter Trade Youth. It's a pre-apprenticeship program we offer during the summer between your junior and senior year to trades-bound students. You're paid by a contractor, kind of like apprenticeship. You take 64 hours of training at PNCI, and then you have another about 7 weeks of paid on-the-job training, Monday through Friday kind of deal. That application will go live this month, and you can find it at community.pnci.org. I'll put the link in the chat later. And there's a high school connections tab that will get you to the summer program. If you're a high school senior about to graduate, we have a program for you too, Carpenter Trade Prep. This is our adult pre-apprenticeship program. It's 3 weeks long, a Monday through Friday opportunity. Doesn't cost anything. It's your chance to see if the carpenters are for you. We provide your tools, the personal protective equipment, materials, everything you need to do that. So that is Carpenter Trade Prep. I'll put the link to that in our chat as well. And if what we've said appealed to you, I invite you to join our high school student mailing list. I promise we don't spam you. We should probably be in even better communication with the students who are interested. But we may have some open house events. We'll tell juniors about the internship. There's some talk about taking the internship to Lynn County and Jackson County in the future. And if you're a senior, you can tell us that you're interested in the Carpenter Trade Prep program. So that is a wrap for me. I will put my contact information in the chat as well. One of the things about construction, it may feel like if you don't know somebody in the trade, that it's hard to get into because you don't know anybody. Well, now you know me, and pretty soon you're going to know some apprentices and an instructor at PNCI as well. So here we are, a little bit early and ready to hear from Chopper and our apprentices.
Yeah, thanks, Meg. Chopper Smart here. I'm an instructor here at Pacific Northwest Carpenters Institute and do a tremendous amount of work and outreach in our community and work with Meg closely with the high schools and also teach a class here called CTP, Carpenter Trade Preparation. So pretty unique class for the area in that our apprenticeship is governed by the JATC, whether or not the apprenticeships are open or closed. And that is based on, cyclical gyrations in the economy and whether or not they need another 400 apprentices or not. So they'll open and close our apprenticeships. Currently, our general carpenters apprenticeship is closed, but our scaffolders and our EIS carpenters, those two trades are open along with the millwrights. So why I tell you that is in that if the front door is locked, sometimes there are some side windows that are open. One of those side windows into the apprenticeship is the CTP, or the Carpenter Trade Preparation class. Its focus is to work with both young people and folks that are maybe coming in from a different professional background but are trying to reinvent themselves, see value in having a career with a living wage and benefits that they can support their entire family under one income. And they'll spend 3 weeks with myself and a couple other instructors. And what we do is a hybrid online and hands-on class over 3 weeks where we teach them the basics, construction logic, a little construction math. We teach them how to read a tape measure, run a screw gun. We have several lectures that really give them a good overview of all the resources that are involved with the apprenticeship once they become an apprentice and a union member. And then when they earn our recommendation at CTP, they are scored in such a way that when they do take their interview with the JATC board, that it tips the scales in their favor, and they come in under, they pretty much have a direct entry through that program. So there's some huge advantages there, and we will be doing that class about 10 times during the year of 2023. So and in hopes to doing that a little heavier in 24 potentially. So those classes will be both in rural Oregon and in the Portland here at PNCI. So yeah, Meg had mentioned something really neat, and that is that a lot of times the population doesn't correlate welding with carpentry. If you ask somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience in the trades and doesn't see the trades from 30,000 feet looking down, they just assume we build cabinets and frame houses. We are everywhere, and there is an ocean of opportunity for all your students out there, whatever their interests may be. We have everything from construction athletes that are swinging from the heights doing scaffolding to folks that are working at Intel in a clean room. Welding is one of those niche markets that the UBC, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters, has seen as being indispensable, and it keeps our carpenters employable and marketable. It's a certified type role in the workforce. So we do all of our certifications in-house. We're the only apprenticeship facility in the state of Oregon that has the ability to do that, which really separates ourselves from everyone else. Everyone else has to pay some pretty big, pretty hefty costs to send those certification tests, which are basically huge pieces of metal that have been welded together, out to third-party places to have them certified. And the reality is all that cost is passed down to the end user, which is going to be your students. Okay, so we do all this the training here, and it's at no cost to the students. Okay, so there are some pre-apprenticeship programs here in the state of Oregon. I won't say where necessarily, but they cost about $10,000 to get the same amount of training that our students would get through our apprenticeship program. So there is big value in that. In fact, I gave a tour to Centennial High School today to 31 students, and over half of them raised their hand when I asked them if they were familiar with the welding shop when we gave them a tour, and if that revved them up. If they saw value in that, they could see themselves doing that in the future. Over half of them raised their hand, and it really got them excited. So it's a really unique aspect of becoming a carpenter, is having so many different opportunities laid out in front of you. So I'm here in the chat. If you've got any questions that I can field for you through the chat, I'd love to do that.
There were a couple. How about the one, can you pick which training center you go to?
If you live south of Wilsonville, you'll be going to the Tangent location.
What if you're in Hood River?
If you're in Hood River, you'll be going to the Portland location. So we'll choose where you go based on the mileage from your zip code. If you're outside of 50 miles, we're going to take care of lodging for you, and we're going to get you to a facility. So when we do our lodging, this is pretty unique. I've had students that get to their hotel and they just can't believe it. They're treated like rock stars. They're like, "What do you mean I get an Uber to school in the morning?" Well, we take care of transportation to and from the facility if we get you here and we put you up in lodging. And then we also have those hotels that are facilitating our lodging take care of sack lunches for the students too. So when they check in upon arrival, they're taken care of. So they just need to let the front desk know that they need a sack lunch for the next day. And they provide them with the sack lunch. And then we get them home on time. Let's see, what else? I did see something, Meg, I might need your help on this specific number of hours, but there was a question about, how many hours is it required before you continue on to your second year? There's 8 levels to the apprenticeship. So how many hours is required to go from level 1 to level 2?
Two classes at PNCI, so that's 80 hours of classes, and then at least 750 hours of on-the-job training. So let's actually, Eddie, if you're there, Eddie, why don't you start? I want you to answer that question about how fast you can go through your apprenticeship. But first, why don't you introduce yourself, your age, your trade, your term?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I'm Eddie. My name is Edward Zaharov. If you guys want the full name, I'm gonna be a 6th term after this week, and yeah, I've been working full time for probably the last 2 years now. But so what was the exact?
How did you get to 5th term in 2 years?
So the way I did it was I had the opportunity to work a lot of hours. So like me, my average month of work was around 250, like almost 270 hours a month. So if you do the math on that, it adds up pretty quickly, and you could get your hours built up pretty fast. And so you could, so what I did, instead of going to class one week when I could work, 60, 70 hours, I talked to my coordinator saying, hey, can I push that week farther down the line? And I will go there. I just have an opportunity to work. And so we pushed the date for school farther down. I went to work, and then later I went to the class. And right now I've been taking classes almost since work has started to slow down. Now it's been basically 2 years, and I'm over, and I'm almost going to be a sixth term. So I will be most likely done with the apprenticeship program before the year ends, if work keeps staying up. So, but yeah, so you could definitely move up in line. With you just got to put in the work and talk to people, because if you don't ask the question, you'll never get an answer, and you could never actually get things the way you want. So yeah.
Yeah, that's very well said, Eddie. Thank you for that. So just to kind of expand on what Eddie's describing is that we are designed as a 4-year program, but if you've got an apprentice on your hands who is working full-time, working overtime so that he's banking bigger hours worked, and he's doing the extra, they're doing the extra, which means that maybe they're picking up another class. They're coming in and doing a welding class on a Saturday, and after work, they can actually do this program in 3 years. So it is designed for folks that want to do the extra. They can get out a little earlier than the 4-year program.
Andy, let's hear from you. Will you tell us how old you are, your trade, your term, and what were you doing before you got into apprenticeship?
Can you guys see me and hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't see you, but I can hear you, but that's all right. Okay, so my name is Andy. I am 24 now, and I attended high school in Alaska, which I didn't know about trades until I moved here into Oregon. And what I was doing before was like trail maintenance and like reconstruction of that specifically, which is a very different trade from this. But I did a pre-apprenticeship program through Job Corps, and that's how I got into the trades.
How long was it before you got in? So you applied an interview and you found work. Could you walk us through that timeline?
Sure. So after I finished the Job Corps program, which is probably like the longest pre-apprenticeship program you can do in the state of Oregon,
Yes,
which is about a
yes.
year. It probably took me about a month, I want to say, to find work. That was also just because I came and graduated in November, which is like winter, which is the dead season.
Mhm.
So there wasn't a lot of work, but I just kept calling everybody, basically. I kept having like my Job Corps instructors would like give me all their contacts and be like, just call all of these numbers and ask if they have work. And that's what I did. That was like my full-time job until I found something, which Dispatch actually found something for me. And within a month, I was working full-time.
How does Dispatch work?
So Dispatch is a system that I think the union or the locals have specifically for us, and it's like a phone number. Basically, they have everyone's phone number, and then there's a list, and so you're on that list depending on all of your skills. So the more classes you take, the more skills and certifications you have, so the higher on the list you are. And so what happens is that, let's say they need an apprentice that is female that has X, Y, and Z skills. And so I'm the first one that comes up that meets all of that criteria. And so they call me, and I whether accept the job or I don't. You can also kind of like accept how far are you willing to work. So I put that I was going to work in like downtown area, which is like Portland downtown, and I could work all the way down to like Salem if I needed to. And so they look at jobs from that specific area and then they like dispatch the jobs from there.
Andy, did you come in as a first term apprentice, or because of all your time in Job Corps, did you come in at an advanced level?
So I came in as a first term because they're still trying to work out the kinks on that. As far as I have heard, they are actively working on Job Corps alumni to have more of an upper hand for that, since we do have like such a intense pre-apprenticeship program.
Caleb, can we hear from you? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Hi, my name's Caleb. I am a 23 years old, sixth term scaffold director. I went to high school in Vancouver, Washington. Before joining the union, I went to college for a year and a half in Hawaii and then dropped out. And then I started working at the airport, throwing bags, loading the planes. And then I started talking to some of the construction workers at the airport, and they just told me to go to this website and apply, I guess. I tried to get into the general carpenters, and I didn't get accepted, I guess. But I went straight to the union after that, and I registered as a carpenter helper, scaffold tender, and then talked to the union rep. And the next day I was working. I just got a text saying, be at Brand Safeway at 5 a.m, and I've been working there ever since. Never been laid off, never had any time off.
Can you describe a project you've worked on recently and what's it like out there?
The last big project that I was on was in Idaho, actually. We worked at a prison. We wrapped this whole building with frame scaffold and then wrapped the frame scaffold with plastic. It was definitely tough. It was like 4 degrees and negative with the wind chill. Being a later apprentice, it was kind of hard for me to kind of just step down and do whatever I was told. But I learned a lot about just going with the flow and doing everything that I can do. Yeah.
Thank you. Hannah, let's hear from you. How did you get in? What's your trade? What's your term? All that good stuff.
Yeah, okay. So my name's Hannah. I'm a general carpenter, which I'm feeling grateful about because it sounds a little elusive right now. I am a second term apprentice, and I got into the union through the Carpenters Union's own pre-apprenticeship program, which is that Chopper teaches. Chopper didn't teach me, sadly, but it's 3 weeks. It's 5 days a week, 8-hour days. And a really neat thing about that program that I'm unsure about other pre-apprenticeship programs is you come out with your OSHA 10 certification. That is just a nice little, when you get into the apprenticeship, they will put you through that certification anyway, but it's nice to have it as a pre-apprentice. It makes employers feel a little more comfortable, especially if you're green on the job site, to know that you've already like learned a little bit about safety. So yeah, Chopper's course, I recommend it.
What's a job you're working on recently, or one that you're proud to be part of?
Yeah, I'm on an affordable housing project in North Portland, and it's been going for about 2 years, and I've been on it for a year. And I've seen it from when it was just wood framing, no walls, no roof, all the way to where it is now. And now I work for the general contractor, so you cover all the little odds and ends. I'm hanging wall art. I'm cutting out little bits of concrete that are just poking out too far, or we realize we need backing somewhere, so we cut a hole into the wall, we put more wood there. It's every day is different, but yeah, that's the project I'm on now.
Would anybody like to talk about what class you're in this week here at PMCI, and how do you handle not getting paid for the 4 days that you're on the job? Maybe Andy, then Caleb.
Sure. I'm actually in the same class as Hannah. We're taking wood framing right now because we're both general carpenters, and that's part of our curriculum. Depending on what of like the 5 trades that there is in like carpentry itself, your classes may vary a little bit or overlap. It depends. But we are, yeah, like I was saying, we're doing wall framing, and it's fun, I would say. It's halftime is in a classroom, and you talk about like terminology and like logistics and like things that you need to know, like bookwork basically, and then you get down and you execute what you've learned, which is why you want to pay attention. So we don't get paid for this week because we are here instead of work, obviously, and so we file for unemployment. And we kind of have like our own little, how would you say that, like benefit. I don't know, it's like unemployment crosses over with an apprenticeship program, and then they have like their own little office, and so we apply for unemployment, and then for this week we would get that instead of our regular paycheck.
Right, great. Caleb, what are you taking?
I am taking ICRA, Best Health and Safety Practices for Working in Hospitals. It can be boring sometimes, but it is really good information to learn. And when you understand that it has like a purpose to it, it makes it a lot more interesting. Especially being a scaffold director, because our job specifically is to protect people's lives, build them safe scaffolds, stuff like that. So it's sort of the same thing, protecting how they are, I guess.
Yeah, carpenters don't want to be sick when they're working in a hospital. They want to protect the patients from all the dust and noise and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Eddie, what class are you in?
So I'm in exterior finish. So basically just wrapping, like having the exterior of a house, just putting on the siding, the Tyvek, the siding, and the trim, learning how to install windows. And that's what I'm learning right now for it. So.
While we have you, Eddie, did you know about apprenticeship in high school? And what do you think people in high school today should know about it?
So I knew about the apprenticeship program because my dad is in the union, and that's how I kind of got a head start on it in some sort of a way. Like my dad was always making good money, and then since I finished high school earlier, because I went to Reynolds for I think a year or less than a year, and then I went to homeschool, so I just finished it a lot sooner. But because I couldn't join the union immediately, I was like 16 and a half, 17, so I had to work at another company for a little bit. And then when I turned 18, I joined the union. And honestly, if you're in high school, I would recommend joining the union, or at least try to get in. Because if you get in and you realize how much money you're making and you're not going into debt, because if you go to any college and you don't have a scholarship or you don't have any financial aid or anything coming with you, you're just going into debt. You'll be, I don't know, $50,000, $100,000 in debt easily. And you might not even like that job when you finish the school. And once you join an apprenticeship, the trades, you get to learn, you get to see the people, you get paid immediately. It's not like, oh no, you're not getting paid. You just start working, you get paid. And the benefits on top of that. Like I know my buddy, he got injured, and the benefits from the union covered it. He went to the hospital, and all he had to pay was I think it was like $100 for his, what is it, like the minimum you have to pay for your insurance, and they showed him that if he didn't have insurance, it would have costed him almost $3,600 something dollars. So it's, and like, all right, well, if he didn't decide not to go here, he would be out almost $3,500. So it just makes sense, I guess, in my opinion, for all high school students to at least give it a try, because once you realize the money is good, you realize you like it because the culture, the way people talk, and it's all improving. So like if you're able to ask questions, everything is just always getting better in the union, in my opinion, and I would definitely recommend high school students to hop into it because you also get to retire earlier too. There's just a bunch of benefits to it, honestly. So
Well, there's a question in the chat that maybe you could address. It says, are apprentices required to be part of the union for some time after their training is complete? Like, why would you leave?
Like when you
Are you required to be in the union?
to as an apprentice, or well, if you join the trades through the union, then that one I don't really know. I know that you have to, if you want to get the apprentice wage, you have to be part of the union. You could leave at any time you want if you decide to pursue a different career. You will just I don't know how how it would be to leave, but I know you just walk out and you don't pay your dues. You won't get the union won't refer you as somebody who's part of the union because you're not paying or you're not helping.
You won't be able to have these jobs.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you could leave technically if you don't like it. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, let's be honest. If you're 18 and you join, and you're making what, $28 an hour now? Like $28. That's almost 40 grand, 50 grand, and that's just starting. Then you throw in some overtime over there, and you're easily making 60 grand a year. So, yeah.
Thank you. Hey, Hannah, somebody asked if you went to college before you came into apprenticeship, or what were you doing before you got in?
I did go to college and I loved it, and it was very expensive. And I studied what I wanted to study, and I was deeply unemployable from that. I was a philosophy major. So I left college with a lot of love for my education, and I went straight into food service and did that for 3 or 4 years and realized that was the hardest work I've ever done for the littlest pay I've ever seen. And I wanted to do something more rewarding, more challenging, and gave me a living wage.
Did you know about the trades when you were in high school, Hannah?
My father was a union electrician all his life, and I, even with that, had no idea about the trades.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know how you become such a thing, and I did not know that I could become such a thing. So no.
Oh, wow. Would you talk about finding your first job? Like, how does that work?
I think that it sounds like we heard one path from Andy, which is you get in the union, you put your name on the dispatch list, and you still hustle for work, but you can wait for a call. The call will come eventually.
Mm-hmm.
My path, I got out of my pre-apprenticeship program. I interviewed to get into the union on a Friday, and I had a job by Wednesday, the next Wednesday. I walked onto some job sites at 6 a.m. and asked them to hire me, and one said yes.
That must be pretty nerve-wracking. So we told the students today about the JTC and the interview process. Does anybody want to talk about why you think you made it in? Was it your potential, your good attitude, your pre-apprenticeship, your work experience? What do you think? Just to give them the perspective of what it's like to be in that interview. Caleb, what do you think?
So for me, it was a little bit different. I didn't get in right away. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any references or anything like that. So I went to the general carpenter application, didn't get in, and then I started working building scaffold. And then 3 months later, my bosses called me and told me that they're going to pull some strings and get me into the apprenticeship, and that was it. So
you were a helper?
Yeah, for scaffold it's called scaffold tender.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was honestly, you just kind of have to work hard and be there, and you'll get in eventually. It just takes some time.
All right, great. I'm watching the clock, and our last question, anybody or everybody could answer this. Do you have any advice for parents, teachers, and counselors of trade-bound teens? How can they support their trade-bound teens?
I think that, as Hannah was saying, because like I also, when I was in high school, I did not know about the trades. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. And I think the trades have to be talked as much as college is talked about. Because, well, not everyone wants to go to school. And that's fair. Like, you don't have to go to school, but there's alternatives to that. And I think those alternatives definitely need to be discussed more and be also looked into as thoroughly as people do when they pick out their college. Because like I was overhearing before the meeting started, that some of the students were like talking to electricians last time, and now they're talking to carpenters. And like, there are so many trades now, especially so many trades with a union, which is great, which is awesome, because it means security for the working class. And I think I will back up on what Eddie said. Like, I think the sooner you can get into a union, the better. Because I waited, I think like 4 years after I graduated high school to get in. And that would have been like 4 years. Like, I could have been a journey person by now, like I could have already finished the program. But that's okay. You got to start somewhere, right? So, but it makes such a big difference financially, which then brings so many more opportunities into your life. And yeah, like, I don't know, for me personally, like I said, like, I would have started as soon as I graduated high school, even if I didn't know if that was the thing that I wanted to do, just to try it out, because you're not going to know what you're going to want to do until you try it out. And then you can be like, oh, I absolutely hate this, or oh, I absolutely loved it, and then continue doing it or choose a different path. But back to your original question, I think it just needs to be talked a lot more.
Talk about it. I love it. Eddie, do you have an opinion? What should adults of the trade-bound teens do to support them?
I mean, honestly, I would say talk about because a lot of people, from at least when I was in school, a lot of the teachers always said, you make good money after you go to college, you get a good degree. Now, I didn't really hear that much about, the trades. But once I started working on the trades, I realized how much money you could make.
Yeah.
Like I think last year or the year before that, I made almost 100 grand, right? And I was second year, third term.
You were 20?
Yeah, and I was 20. I mean, I'm almost clearing 100 grand. You think about that, that's a lot of money. And not a lot of people get told that. And I'm also debt free. So I don't have, the only payment I have is my rent, and whatever car I bought it with cash. So I'm able to live comfortably and save up money. And if you go to college, you might have, if you pursue that and you enjoy it, yes, go for that. It's something you really want to do it. I agree with that. Like, if you have something you're very passionate about, you want to do it. You have to go to college to get it done. But if you don't know exactly what you want to do, you're in this crossroads of, maybe I want to try this, maybe try that. And you decide, you're just going to apply to a bunch of places, apply to the trades, because it could easily be that within, a year or two, you could be clearing $100,000. But you just got to put the work in, you got to get there. And I just want the teachers to talk about that, you could be financially stable working the trades. Because sometimes, you drive by like, oh no, the trades, they don't make that much. We make a lot of money. And, I think that should be talked about with teachers a lot more as well, to the students.
Thank you.
I think maybe something for teachers and counselors to keep in mind for trade-bound teens are the kind of funding and state programs that are available to get some of the initial obstacles of joining the trades out of the way. So every apprentice in the union hears about there's a BOLI program for tools that we can apply for based on our income, and through that we You can have your whole setup from your carpenter tool bags to all the tools filling it paid for. There's like transportation assistance because carpenters have to have cars. So if your car breaks down, you can apply for a little funding there. If there's like any childcare in the mix, like our union has programs that you can try to apply for some funding for daycare and things like that. So if you're a teacher or counselor, maybe having those programs in mind and educating yourself about those would be useful to advise people going towards the trades.
Aspire people, are there any questions in the chat that we haven't addressed yet?
Yes, there's one question. If you do an apprenticeship program in Oregon or Washington, are you only certified to work in that state?
Oh, no. Once an apprentice finishes their program and has their journey card, they can work anywhere in the world. That's their credential. It's very portable. Good question.
I will say though, you do have to finish you don't have to finish your apprenticeship in the state that you started, but it is preferred. But once you journey out, you can go anywhere. Like you can even you can go to different countries and work as a carpenter and be like, I'm a journeyman.
Yeah, many of the contractors, word contractor doesn't even really describe it. They're multinational conglomerates, and they seek out contracts to build around the world. So the company Andy works for has a job in Ireland or Australia. They might offer her that position, and she might get a little extra money to for living expenses, all that stuff. Join the union, see the world.
Yeah, I have a couple things to add just real quickly, if I may. Three things came to mind while I'm here, and that is, first off, PNCI is an accredited program through Mount Hood Community College. So as I've been meeting young people on the precipice of graduating, sometimes you'll hear an objection or maybe something that they're trying to jump over a hurdle, which is they're getting pressured that they need to have or go to college. That's great. Hey, we welcome that, because by the time they're done with their 4-year program here, they'll have earned enough credits to receive an AA from Mount Hood Community College in construction. So they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Secondly, I wanted to touch a little bit on what I heard was trade-bound students. Meg and I are working diligently on getting off the ground our internship for 17-and-a-half-year-olds here in the state of Oregon. We just had Southwest Washington here for the Skills USA competition, and we had 21 students, 7 high schools, and a number of the superintendents that were here. These are people that are in charge of all labor for hiring for their companies. They were scouting talent and offered internships at that particular competition to a number of the students that excelled. So I would stay in contact with Meg and I if you have questions or maybe a road in for a well-motivated student that's trade bound, and we can match them up with a participating partner in that program, and they can earn $20 an hour during the summertime working for them. There are a couple of restrictions. They can't be on the tools and they can't be on a prevailing wage job, but by golly, we can definitely get them going. And then thirdly, I wanted to touch on what one of our apprentices had talked about. I wanted to just add some detail to that, some finite. So the unemployment, the way that works for our apprentices is they actually make more money that the week that they're here typically than they do early on in their apprenticeship, that first half of the 8 periods. So they'll actually claim for unemployment, but they can also work that Friday. So they'll be here for 4 days, and then they can go back to work and make wages on Friday. So if you take an unemployment check plus a day's wages, boy, that's a pretty dang good week for them. So we've actually early on, back when I did my apprenticeship, it was difficult for those of us that would claim the unemployment, because we had to arbitrate for ourselves with the unemployment office. Hey, have you looked for work this week? You know, and you felt like, well, I want to be a person of integrity. I'm a student. I didn't go out and look for work because I have a job, right? I'm just here for class. So you had to arbitrate and plead your case and advocate for your situation. That is not the case anymore. In fact, the state of Oregon has actually authored up a nice little document that all the apprentices sign and turn in, and that's on file for them. So when they file for their unemployment, they don't have to be in fear of whether or not they'll be rejected on their claim or not, because they're part of an apprenticeship, an accredited apprenticeship program here in the state. So anyway, yeah. Thank you.
There's been some questions about, like, how do you get points? How do you get chosen? And honestly, we are at a crossroads right now and looking at our standards and point system. So I don't want to go too much into that because I think it's going to change. But suffice it to say, some of the things we talked about: work experience, you get points for that. A driver's license, you get points for that. CTE classes in high school, you get points for that. So the Carpenters actually have a high school program that might be at some of the schools that are here today. I'm sorry, I can't tell where everyone's from, called the Career Connections Program. High school shop teachers and construction tech teachers and Job Corps and some community-based pre-apprenticeship programs use the Carpenters curriculum. And when those students achieve a level of skills, they get a certificate. That certificate means something to their school, but it also means something to the union carpenters in North America. If you apply to PNCI or any of the union carpenter training centers, you'll have an advantage. So ask your shop teacher if you guys have the Carpenters curriculum, and I'm always happy to talk to somebody about that. Gordy, what else did we miss in the chat?
I think you covered everything.
Excellent.
There was one high school or GED required.
Right. We like people who finish things. I didn't mention it, but if you have your GED or your high school, that's a document that you can upload in your application and you will get points for that. However, adults who did not finish high school, there's no penalty. They're still welcome to come into the union apprenticeship program. If you're in high school, I'm not giving you permission to quit. Stick with it. Finish strong, seniors.
All right. Hey, this has been an excellent session. We have just a couple, 3-4 minutes left. Is anyone still in the audience that wanted to ask a question that they didn't get answered already?
I want a direct question. Is there a program start date or is it rolling admissions like at a college? For us, the Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee meets every month. They look at the workforce needs. How much work is coming? What about this, infrastructure money coming to Oregon, building new bridges and wastewater treatment plants and all this stuff? How many do you need? So the JATC is watching the need. We do not want hundreds of people out of work and then to bring in new apprentices. So once all of our current apprentices are working, then you will see our application open. And again, the JATC makes that decision based on workforce needs. They want to take care of the apprentices they've already have. So we don't have a start date. It is probably more best described as rolling admission.
It's been fantastic. Great information. I absolutely love these sessions. I think it's so informative and everyone is learning so much. I did want to let you all know that we will be following up with an email out to everyone with a copy of this recorded session and a list of the links that were mentioned during today's session. Caleb, Andy, Chopper and Eddie and Hannah and Meg, we want to say thank you so very much for your time. This sort of session is interactiveness with you as apprentices in the field, and Chopper right there at the training center with Meg. It's absolutely amazing. We are so thankful for your time today, and we really hope that we can foster some other relationships moving forward with us so that we can continue to share this valuable stuff with our high school students in the state of Oregon. Please don't hesitate, those of you who are apprentices, to reach out. And also those of you who are listening to this recording, don't hesitate to contact Meg or Chopper. The information will be provided for you in the email that goes out. Any final comments from anyone?
I think the only thing I would say is don't get so in your head and so overwhelmed of whether or not you can do a trade, because you would be so surprised, like so surprised, all the different people that work here and how much you end up actually enjoying it. So
Fantastic. Thank you, Andy. Truly do appreciate your comments.
Right. Everyone wants the good life. And if you've got the message that college is the only way to get the good life, I hope these young apprentices have shown you that there are other paths to the good life. Do what makes you happy.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for your time and information. It's extremely helpful. Again, thank you to Caleb, Hannah, Andy, Chopper, Eddie, and Meg. We appreciate it.